Hello everybody and welcome back. This here is my ANET A8 Plus 3D printer, and as you can see it's in no fit state to entertain. I was starting to replace the existing extruder that was on the machine when I bought it with something different, and yeah, it turned into kind of a small project, and I thought I'd share it. So this here is the somewhat original extruder. It's not a bad extruder by any means. In fact, it works quite well. The only problem that I have with it is that it's just oozing a lot because it doesn't get good cooling from the upper side, and for some reason the driver here just seems to hate me. So this thing gets stuck, it clogs, I can't pull the filament back. I'm plain hating this thing. So this has got to go. I did, well, spend a lot of time thinking about what I was going to use, and I was thinking of using an E3D hot end or something of the like, but I couldn't get anything to fit the mount here, and then I stumbled upon a box of parts that held this super cheap Chinese extruder. It's an extruder. It's got a J6 hot end with cooler heating block, and it even comes with another heating block in volcano configuration. So this is like a really great set, and when I got them they were less than 20 euros. And yeah, let's just make this one work. I've already modded this one heavily, like for example I added a brass sleeve to the idler so it has a lot less frictions toward the stepper, and I made sure that everything is perfectly lined up, so this extruder is ready to go. Now the other thing that I've been fighting with is the existing mount that came with the ANET A8, which is pretty much standard. We have 8mm rails, we have blocks for that. There are linear bearings in the back of here, and there is a very simple belt tensioning mechanism in the back of here that is screwed right into this plate as well. So we need something that we can fix the extruder to the axis, but it needs to have provisions so we can have the belt tensioning mechanism, and it needs to be able to hold our new extruder. So there is a slight problem here. First of all, we have a lot of these screws here. They all have to stay because we need that to connect the extruder to the x-axis, but at the same time we need to mount the extruder somehow, and this mount that comes with the kit has 6 holes for screwing it into the back, but of course we can't do that because the blocks are in the back of here and I'm not going to drill holes into those. So what we need is some sort of spacer that has provisions for all of the mounting screws that we need for the rail blocks, as well as all of the screws for the extruder, and possibly some more so we can also attach fans and other accessories that we may need, and maybe even have some nice cable management. So after a few nights of sleep, some pondering and some experimenting, I came up with this mounting plate. It has the provisions for all of the holes for the rail and blocks. It has 2 inserts for M3 screws for the belt tensioning, and it has 6 nuts in the back for the extruder block to mount it, and it has 2 additional inserts here, so I can add additional stuff like fans, cable management, and whatever you need. Now, this was all great until I figured out I didn't have the right set of screws for that. So I do have M10 screws that fit perfectly in here, but they're all too long because they're 10 millimeters, and for some strange reason I made the block 7 millimeters. So whatever I put in here, I can tighten it down. So I'm gonna have to go out, and either I'll have to find some other screws that are shorter, or I'll have to cut them off, maybe saw off 2 to 3 millimeters of each and every one of these screws, and it's gonna be a nightmare. So well, let's see what I'm gonna do. But apart from that, of course, it seems that this part should do the job. Okay, half an hour later, I now have 6 screws that are no longer 10 millimeters, but something below that, very irregular. And the tool of choice was a set of snips, powerful ones. And with this, we should now be able to try and mount the new mounting plate to the rail blocks and see if we can attach the belt tensioning mechanism, and if that works out, we can try and mount the extruder to the front of this and see what it looks like and how much it differs from the original. Okay, so I have the old mounting plate removed, and I'm just going to move it to the side right now. I'm not going to worry about the belt tensioning mechanism in the back of here. I'll just leave it in place, and I'm just going to move it over and try to fit the new one that I made. Here we go. So the original screws should still work with the new one, I hope. This fits really good. There's a little tension on it, which is fine. That should even out when it's all tightened down. Oops, there's no screw there. There's more tension now. And with all the screws tightened down, the tension is improving. So even though this is 3D printed, it is still flat and level enough to work quite beautifully, I believe. Good. So here's the back of the original mount, and these are the screws that are part of the belt tensioning mechanism, and I've already rebuilt this one because when I installed the one that came with the printer, it was slightly broken, and I made these parts on my resin printer, and they turned out very, very well. So let's get these out and see if I can fit them to the back of the new mounting plate. Well, it turns out that the new belt tensioning mechanism that I made is a problem. I don't know if I got the measurements wrong from the drawings, but I do have a very, very snug fit towards the block and the holder for the block. And the second problem that I'm having is that the screws are just too short, because in the original they would just screw into the metal back of this because it had threads, and now it has to protrude like 1.5 millimeters before it can catch the nut that I put in there. So I drilled these down a little bit. There's still enough material that I can gain another 1.5 to 2 millimeters of thread. But this thing's fighting me. There may have been some cussing involved. This is not going the way I imagined it would go. In fact, I thought that other things would have been a showstopper, not this block here. Yeah, next try. Yeah, that was a real fight. So now the screws down here are more inset than they were before. That's not a problem. That's fine. There's enough material, and they now catch the nuts that are in my new spacer. And I think I can now just mount the belt back up again and tighten it up, and then that should be done. Yeah, that's working nicely. So here we have the new mounting surface. All the screws are in. I didn't torque them down, but I gave them all a fairly good push. So we should now be able to take our new extruder and extruder driver and just kind of put it in place to see what it looks like when it's mounted. And doesn't need to be perfect, but just to give us some indication of what we're working with. And yeah, that looks really nice. So I knew that I was going to lose about 2 centimeters just because the cooling block is so much bigger here. But for PLA and ABS, you want to have a very efficient cooling block, because you want the heating action to take place only at the top of your hot end. Except of course when you're using a volcano hot end, but that has different drawbacks. Okay, so everything is back apart again, because we can now start making parts to complement our extruder. And the first part that I made was basically an air baffle for the fan. I want to continue using the original fan that came with the printer, and well, as you can see, it doesn't really fit anywhere. So we're going to have to be a little bit tricksy about that. And what I came up with was actually something pretty simple. I made an air box that actually kind of threads in here. So it goes in here, then you can press it down until it sits right on top of the base of my new adapter plate. And the fan goes in the top of here. I have a top that I can glue on once it's in place, and then when I'm done with it, the fan for the print cooling will just be glued taped on here with double-sided tape, because I don't really know how I want to do this right now. And if I just design some part without actually knowing the exact positions and distances between all of the parts that we're dealing with here with our extruder, then I'm just going to get it wrong. So I'm going to have to cut some more screws, get all of this in place, and it basically really it just sits on here. I do have some recesses for these screws, so everything should just fit really snug, and I can then tie it down with these two screws here, and it should be held in place okay. So let's see if that works out. So before I start mounting everything back up again and adding the air baffle, I just wanted to mention that I made a few design decisions. First of which is air baffle sucks in air from the bottom, exhales to the left side and to the front. And the wiring for the heater block and temperature probe is going to go onto the left side as well. So everything should be nice and clean, and we have all the control wiring, stepper, and the two fans on the right side, and we have the wiring for the heated block on the left side. That should make it look really clean. And I'm actually going to take it all back apart, because I just realized once I'm done with the air baffle and all of that, I can actually mount it to the printer, because everything that follows doesn't need me to take it all back apart again. Except, of course, if I get it wrong. So, I think this is basically the way I want to have it. As I said earlier, the cable management for the heater block will be going up on the left, and it can actually cross over behind the fan that's going to cool the print, and it joins all the other cables moving over there, which is really nice. I have great access viewing the nozzle when it's printing. I have great access to the extruder driver, which is something that I really want. I have a pretty good fit with everything, and I think the airflow management is also pretty nice, taking in the air and then sending it over this way and out through the front. That's probably gonna cool it really well. Yeah, I like this. This is really nice. So here we are on the test bed doing the first test print. I assembled everything back up again. I added the print cooling fan to the front. I have not designed an air guide yet. I don't know where I want to go with this, what kind of design I want to use. So I just used some aluminum tape and bent it into shape so it just guides the air roughly into that direction. The temps are very good. I have very little temperature in the upper part of the extruder where the cooler is, and everything else just fell into place apart from the software. Yeah, building and installing Marlin version 2 is still a pain in 2021, and I'm pretty sure it will be a pain in 2022. Not because the software is bad or because anything is made so it's hard to do. It's just that you need a very special setup to get the compilation running. You need to have in-depth understanding of what you're doing, and there's a learning curve involved here, and wow, it took me cold. So I first tried Repetier, which I was able to get to work, but then the display wasn't working. But I could basically do first tests. Then I tried to install Marlin 1, and yeah, that didn't really work out. So I thought I'd go all the way and use Marlin 2.0. And after some struggling and a little bit of tweaking of my build environment, I got it on there, and it's running really well. All the settings are basically the same that they were before, but the difference in quality, and especially the difference in the way that, for example, the infill is combining with the previous layer, that's all vastly improved. I am really impressed with how good this is running. I'm gonna let it run to the end. I'll show you the parts, and yeah, I just want to give this a little bit of time to run in. But from what I'm seeing right now, surfaces, the combining of the layers, everything looks really great. A lot better than it did before, and I can show you some samples that I'm not proud of, but this, yeah, I could really live with this. And I guess I lost about 10 millimeters of height, well, maybe it's 12 to 15 with the new extruder setup, but it's so much more advanced now. I have so much better cooling in the top part of the extruder. I still have the 40 watts with the 24 volts. Everything else is the way it was before, and I'm still using the same fans. So it's a great setup, and I think the whole extruder, it actually looks really good, and it's a very, very, well, how do you say it? It doesn't only perform good, but it also looks good. And for some of my inventions, that just hasn't been the case before. So I'm quite happy with this. And let's just see how these parts turn out. How the surfaces come out, how the layers combine. I'm going to try to break some of them open if we have good connections with the infill, or if that stuff just separates out again. Yeah, I'm just blown away right now. It was a lot of work. It almost took me an entire day to get this the software side set up, but it seems to have been worth it. So the first print is through, and yeah, it looks really amazing. I am super happy with the result. The lines are great, surfaces are great. As far as I can tell, the layer bond is super. I did try to remove some of the infill from its previous layer, and I just couldn't do it. So this is really good. Comparing it to before, so this was a print that I did with the previous extruder, and I think you might be able to see a bit of difference. The old extruder was smudging quite a bit. The result always looked like it was over extruding quite a bit, but it wasn't. And it even seems that the whole printer has just gotten so much more precision right now. So I'm just super happy with the result. And yeah, if we take it, this was the old extruder that came with the printer. It's by no means a bad setup. It just didn't really work out for me. I don't know if this is just this one or if this is true with all of them, that it just produces bad quality. But this little upgrade came out quite well, and I must say it looks the part. Regarding the costs, I think this is one of the really cheap upgrade extruder packs that you can get. They basically include everything. You have the extruder with the driver, you have a V6 hot end with a heater block, and I think it even comes with a cartridge, and they're about 35 to 40 euros for everything, including stepper, of course. And that's just a great deal. And all I had to do was make the mounting plate and the new airbox. Those are 3D printed parts, and they're really simple. So this was a really worthwhile update. And yeah, I suppose that's it. It's a bit of money spent for a very great improvement of what you got before, which is, well, this isn't ugly, and that's not bad. These parts are very sturdy. This just looks so much better. And apart from the hassle of getting it set up and getting everything ready to work, it was just not bad at all. So thank you very much for watching, and bye bye.